to Gray Matters, where we discuss more than just the hot topics and headlines of the day from a black man's perspective. We appreciate that we are not a monolith, and every subject deserves to be explored with nuance, giving a view from all sides of the culture. So we're here to hopefully bring that to you every week with a little bit of nuance, class, and some fun. Our panel consists of three guys that are absolutely nothing alike, and you'll soon come to find out just how much we love each other in spite of our sometimes very big differences. I'm Billy Craig, and I'll be your moderator for the day, coming to you from Delaware out here on the very sunny and warm East Coast. And I'm joined today by the original hip-hop Dalmatians, Ren and Ten. You all know them better by now, by their government names. Yes, I said government with a capital B in there. Andre Collins and Paul Wilson. Andre and Paul, how you guys doing today?
Man, I'm blessed.
Well, how about yourself?
I'm hot.
You hot?
I'm scared to go outside. Yeah, man. Well, we've been getting it kind of cool. Like, it's been really mild compared to the rest of the country. And then all of a sudden today, they was like, nah, we back in the 90s. And I said, well, I'm back in the house.
We had
till 7 o'clock.
We had our little three.
Practice and stuff. But, I got to go to the grocery store. But, yeah, man, I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm ready to jump in on some of these topics, man. It's been a hot week.
Man.
In the news. So, all right. Let's go ahead and jump into this. Our first topic, got to talk about my man Big Perk. Kendrick Perkins. He did the ultimate when he decided it was time to, and let's be clear here, I'm not necessarily interested in the conversation, him and the back and forth between Kendrick Perkins and Draymond Green so much, because that was just kind of, it is what it is.
Right.
But more importantly, I want to broaden this out a little bit and talk about this idea. One of the things he said, he invoked the name coons. Right? Coon. That coon and sellout conversation that we sometimes have amongst ourselves. And
right.
I want to put that out there because I think it's a lot like the N-word in that there are words and phrases and certain terms that we use amongst ourselves and we know what they are, we know how to use them, but when somebody else uses them, then it's like, wait a minute, we got a problem. But should we I'll just ask it this way, we'll start it here. Should we just go ahead and ban calling people coons and sellouts within the community? Andre, you go first.
Oh, my pleasure. So I don't necessarily know about banning just because we still on the free speech part, right? But I think one of the things that we need to do is be more responsible. Now, Draymond, I know we're not talking about the whole Draymond experience, but Draymond gave kind of a lame excuse saying that, well, it was a different meaning when Saginaw, Michigan, and this is how we used it, and I didn't realize the ramifications of saying it to somebody else that wasn't there. Come on, dude.
Cat. We from the Midwest. We all got the same slang.
Man.
Cat.
And
calling cat.
So that's one thing. But also, like, we got to stop. I know it's going to sound juvenile, but the name calling for people who disagree with us. Because that's really what this comes down to is, oh, you don't think like I think, then, oh, you're a sellout, you're a coon. Like, and that's, that. Like, there's, I think, I know it's going to sound weird, but time and place. Like, there are people who are justifiably, called sellouts because they actually had one position and then money changed or something changed that position that goes against morals. Like, as opposed to you are who you've always been. I just don't like it. That's not a sellout to me. That's just
you're consistent.
You are consistent. If you ain't never been for the culture and you still ain't for the culture, you didn't sell out. You just are who you are.
And I love how you put that. Like, we have to go with the definition. A sellout is someone who literally sold their soul, their reputation, their credibility, and they sold it in exchange for goods. Isn't that what we do in the marketplace? We sold it for goods. And that is the definition, and we can't just throw it out there irresponsibly.
All reckless, yeah. So I mean, so that's what I'm looking at as just kind of like we seem to do this with hot words now, like with toxic masculinity and all these different terms that we totally are messing up. I was about to cuss, sorry. Totally messing up the definitions of and using it in every day. Like that's not what it's supposed to be. And like I said, like Clarence Thomas, for instance, he is who we thought we was. Like he is exactly the same person that he was when Anita Hill warned us who he was. So I'm not like, I don't necessarily consider him a sellout. I don't consider Candace Owens a sellout. Like those people, that's who they are. So I don't, now do I like them? No, I can care less. Or I couldn't care less, I guess is the proper term for it. But I don't consider them sellouts because that's just their DNA. So that, I think that's more where I'm at with it.
Which actually, interestingly enough, is part of the reason why I've set it up that way, because there is a very big difference between someone who I consider a sellout and someone who the term coon would apply to.
Right.
As you said, Clarence Thomas, since, he's kind of low-hanging fruit here, we can just kind of, use him as an example. A lot of people, most people in the black community do not like him, but it would completely be inaccurate to call him a sellout. Now, when you start talking about a coon or cooning, now we having a totally different conversation. And yet, should we maybe consider a more responsible way of using that, or just not? Like me, for example, just, full disclosure, I don't use that term.
Nor do I.
And a lot of it comes from a place of, I have family and friends and people I've known my whole life. I know how they got to where they are. And even if the term does apply to them, it's not irresponsible because the term wouldn't apply to them, but it's almost like, it's kind of like using the B word to call some dude soft or weak or whatever. Even if it applies, I'm not going to do that just because that's, like you said, it's free speech. I choose not to use that word, but I also understand how it would apply to another person. So, Paul, I ask you then, the coon, the coon conversation, the coon word.
Right.
Is that something that we maybe need to reconsider throwing out of the lexicon?
I don't use it. And when I hear it, it's just like I just put a little red dot in your file because it's lazy to me. People have been calling me coon since I showed up to Forest Park High School in 9th grade to catch the bus to St. X. You know what I'm saying? Right. So, oh, you going to that white school. Oh, man, why we ain't going to FP with us? Whoop-de-whoop. It ain't my choice. I mean, I ain't never made a 14-year-old who sent himself somewhere to school. But so I dealt with that, and I know you guys dealt with that as well because we from the same hood, and we heard it from the same folks.
Right.
So you talking about life, real life.
Yeah. So I don't use it because I look at it, even folks who I perceived to not be as down with the cause or whatever, I don't use it on them. And we know something, Billy, you and I have a person that we talk about in private that we laugh about to this day. He's a running joke, but I would never use that word about that brother because I know that he heard the hard ER. He's been denied access to certain rooms. He's been discriminated against and dismissed because of his skin. So his existence is not less than mine. It's just different.
And not only that, now I appreciate what you're saying about his existence not being different, but the fact is, like I was saying before, I know a little bit about him and others, so I know how he got to that place. And so even though it's one of those, I respect the fact that you made a totally different decision and that you've chosen to live a different type of life. But so often, and you brought this up like back in high school, because like I said, that was my life. people, dude, I was a freshman in high school. My parents sent me to St. X, and they was like, what I'm going to do? No. I
Right.
ain't going.
I'm a buck.
Right. What, I'm going to fight? Like,
So you mad
that's
at
not
me
how it
because I
works.
get to go play against Andre's big brother.
Right. Like, you're welcome.
And the news is there.
Right, you're welcome. Go make a tackle. But I guess my point is, we can look at it in a nuanced way when it comes to that. Like, kids don't make these choices. Well, guess what? Kids don't choose their upbringing, their environment, how they grow up.
Right.
And so how they adapt to the world, their level of exposure to certain things is not their own. My kids, I'm making choices for them. I'm putting them in certain places. And so a lot of the things that we see when we get to the real world as adults, we look at somebody and we label them. And that's why I love the fact you said it's lazy. Because it deserves nuance. Before you label somebody, you need to, understand a little bit about them. And that doesn't mean I'm not justifying bad behavior. Right? But one of the things that personally I learned from mentoring kids, mentoring young men in particular, when I set up my program, the Fountain of Youth years ago, is I had a bunch of boys who were in middle school, and you would be surprised. Like it was almost, it was painful sometimes to understand where they came from. And when you realize the diversity that's even just in a classroom of 12, 15 boys, much less all around the country. I mean, that whole thing, getting back to it just a little bit between Draymond and Perk, the thing that's so interesting about that is, yes, they share that brotherhood of being in the NBA, playing alongside the same people, having that experience, but it showed how, as much as they were different, they're actually very much the same. And it's almost like, it was almost sad to me that the conversation gets to where it just completely disintegrates into this name calling thing.
Right.
Instead of it being the merits of the conversation.
Draymond has a brand. Draymond's brand is Sag Nasty. Right? And let's go into the Ja Morant stuff. Like, I'm not cool with how he talk about what he talk about. You know what I mean? Like, I'm on your block, I'm pulling up. Like, bruh, come on, man. You had two parents and you from the burbs. You hoop.
Right.
Chill.
Yeah.
Chill. And let's talk about Steven Jackson. Pulling up on O Block. He's 50 years old, pulling up, checking in with kids. You paid some kids to go take a picture with you. And you're 50 years old and on Showtime.
Right.
What's wrong with you, bruh? Is that a coon?
There's a lot of tap dancing, I will say that. But there's another element that all of us have to go through as well, which, for the people who don't know, since we national now, go ahead and put that plug in there. So we're all from Forest Park. It's a technically a
Suburb.
town or in Cincinnati, but Forest Park is also segmented. So it's an alphabetical order, and so Billy, if I'm right, you were in the H section, right?
H section, yep.
Okay, Paul,
We were in that part of Forest Park that went to Green Hills.
Right.
We got bused. Right.
I lived in the I and the G.
Got it. Okay, and so I was in the E section. So I was considered my parents doing well. Like that's
y'all was rich.
Y'all was
in
eating,
the E.
Andre. Come on, man.
Y'all was in the E, boy.
So that was part
Me
of
and Paul got 3 squares. You was eating.
Right.
So that's part of what we had to go through. But then when you take that and then I go to Moeller, which is an all-white high school, now those are the labels that I have. But the one thing that I was able to do, which was I could play ball. I could play ball, I could run, I could do
run.
all that.
That's it. Yeah.
So that,
we all could.
That's exactly what it was.
so that became
you get a lot of passes when you can run or jump, or
Absolutely.
you can hit somebody or shake.
but then
Facts.
But it was also like a jealousy standpoint. Like I understood that that's why people were name calling, because it was you wanted to be in my position. Because let's go back to this time, recruits weren't showing up to Winton Woods High School and the other high schools like that, but they lived at Moeller. They lived at St. X. They lived at the Catholic schools and Roger Bacon's and things like that. There was no such thing as huddle where I can send out, can DM you my film or anything like that. So my parents did it as the best opportunity for me to be able to go to college and play ball. So so that's what worked. But at the same time, now we're all fathers of this, a new generation, and the goal normally is to give your kids better than what you had. So now there's a stigmatism of trying to teach your kids their blackness, but also still giving them the luxuries that you may not have had growing up. And so now and that's why I never call anybody coon or, sellouts or anything like that, is because that's going to be my kids, hopefully, that is in that position that those names are being called to them. Now, it's my job as a parent to teach them, about their history and stuff like that. But I'm also not going to apologize because I'm giving my kids a better life. Like that's not what we're not going to do is do that. Because that's supposed to be the goal, is that each generation is supposed to go farther. So and I guess that's where I get to the point of, I'm not doing the coon or the sellout thing just because it becomes personal to what my goals are for my kids, there, because it's always a superficial thing when it's being called a coon or a sellout.
It almost sounds to me, not to cut you off, I'm sorry.
No, you good.
It's like because I hear it from both of you, and this is my experience. I know what it's like to be called a coon strictly because you're upset or jealous or have some type of envy about something that frankly I didn't do. Okay? I remember being timed for the 40 and it was like a big deal because I ran a fast 40. And it's like, it's genetics, dude. I mean, some of it was I worked hard, and I admit, I was fast, but I didn't, do anything special. I just happened to grow in 8th grade, and I got a little bit taller and got a little bigger and I got a little faster, and then it was like, oh. And then it's almost, and unfortunately it feels like, again, these shared experiences, it's a rite of passage that unfortunately a lot of black men who go on to be successful or have higher aspirations, they have to go through. And it's like, why should I have to go through it? Regardless of what you think about, again, Draymond or Kendrick Perkins, it's unfortunate that we use those names against ourselves, because there literally is no, people talk about the N-word like, oh, well, it's a term of endearment, Well, there is no way to spin sellout or coon to make it a term of endearment.
Right.
You're basically coming at me. And
coming at my manhood.
Exactly. And frankly, well, anyway, that's another conversation.
Well, even outside of manhood, it's coming at your integrity and your character as a person. Like, and that's where, and that's why it's personal, and that's where it touched. That's why I wasn't mad at Perk for what he said, because now you've taken.
I understood what I understood everything Perk was saying.
I'm gonna be totally transparent. I felt what Kendrick Perkins said in my soul, like
bones,
because here's in
my
thing.
Bones
Right, all the way down to the marrow. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, when I was younger, that stuff used to hurt. It used to hurt me, and I hadn't even fleshed it all out and thought through it, and didn't have the knowledge and understanding that I do now. I used to fight. Like, that's fighting words. It was like, oh, okay, I might take an L here, but nah, ain't gonna be too many more coons here. I'm gonna have to just stand up, and it is what it is. Because, and obviously, I've grown out of that for the most part. I don't, who cares? But that's the type of thing where, unfortunately, we as black men have to understand that it's an unnecessary jab to take. And why would you want to tear some? Because at the end of the day, I'm looking at Perkins. I'm like, dude, you and Draymond, like, and I'm looking at Draymond, I'm like, y'all national television. Y'all have a national platform. You all have made millions playing basketball. You have, to different, varying degrees, you all have been extremely successful. Why would you go after and attack somebody else who, frankly, I look at it this way, no matter what I think of them, you're successful. I want to be able to point to my son or my daughter and be like, that right there, no matter what you think of it, they have made, they've done what so many other people say, well, going. I could have done this, and they make excuses for why they couldn't get there.
Keep going.
No. When we look at our representation out there, it's bad enough. Draymond don't have no, to my knowledge, Draymond don't have no criminal record. He ain't out here in these streets. Same thing with Perk. So it's like, why are you tearing down or coming at somebody who, frankly, you can just have differing opinions?
Because
why we got to go to name calling?
Because when we are the only one in white spaces, we find the most adversity amongst each other. Mm. Think about that. I had more problems with brothers at St. X than I had with white boys.
Well, I ain't gonna say all that. I had some problems with.
Well, I had some, but I'm just talking about the ones I had to deal with.
Right.
Right.
I could just avoid that white boy ain't like.
Now I'll say this.
You know what I'm saying? But with the brothers, it's like, it's just us here, so I'm dealing with whatever I'm dealing with. You dig what I'm trying to say?
No, I understand exactly. And I'll say this. I'll put it to you this way. I have even to this day, like right now, on the 30th of June, 2022, I've had still more problems with, as you said, the brothers from Forest Park than I ever had with anybody else. And it was almost like, like something to prove, where you're not really one of us. And I'm like, dude.
Oh, you from Avondale? Well, let's fight.
Green Hills, like, it wasn't my fault.
No, that was really my introduction at the park going to hoop. Yeah. Oh, you from Avondale? Where you from? I just moved here from Avondale. Oh, well, let's fight. Word?
Right.
That's how you get down? So because I'm from the Dale, I'm from A1. Now you want to prove yourself to say you could fight an A1 dude. Man, come on, man. Stop.
I was in the gifted program.
Both your parents work at Procter and Gamble. You got 3 cars in the driveway. Leave me alone, bro. Stop playing with me. I'm not the one for that.
It was all new money in Forest Park. But that's the thing I'm saying. Like, I was in the gifted program. So again, I'm over at Beechwood and Lakeside, and then it was like, what do you mean you want to fight? Why, dude? I live right down the street. Like, we can fight if you want to, but why?
At the end
it's
of the day,
it's not gonna go how you think, though.
It definitely ain't gonna go how you think. But also, like, it's still Cincinnati, dog. Like, at the end of the day, I got pulled over just as many times as you did. Like, I'm still. They ain't got to bleep this out. I'm still a nigga in Cincinnati. Like, so. Like, the whole classism and separation, like, it's still to this day, there versus real ones versus fake ones, and that's still a quick death and a quick sentence to the grave for that, just because it doesn't make any sense that we still are divided at this point when we all know who our common enemy is, and we still fighting against each other. Like, we gotta do better. That's really what it comes down to, because I know we gotta wrap, but we gotta do better.
Absolutely. Let's take a slight turn here away from that conversation, and unless you have literally been living under a rock or you took a trip to the International Space Station or something, I don't know how you would have missed it, but it felt like the entire country from coast to coast lost their collective mind, because the Supreme Court came out last Friday, almost a week ago, and decided, guess what? We're going to go ahead and change this. And so Roe versus Wade, basically they stripped it of its precedent and its power to be able to effectively make abortion legal. in all 50 states. Now, obviously, there's been a lot of chipping away
on the federal level. They just left it up to the states.
Right, exactly. And they basically, like I said, they took away and moved it back to the states and said, clearly Roe was an overreach, leave it to the states. And now where you have a stronger conservative Republican influence, they basically decided, well, we're just going to go ahead and get rid of it or make it where it's impossible because you don't even necessarily know that you're pregnant. Anyway, my question is this, and I want to do this kind of in two parts. One, how should men approach the topic of Roe versus Wade? And then the second part of it is, and this is kind of near and dear to my heart, where should people's faith enter the conversation? But let's start with the whole men part, because one of the things I found is that immediately women just started coming out the woodwork like, oh, vasectomies for everybody until you're ready to have kids. And I'm like, yeah, I hear you, but, now we got to get practical because I'm not going.
Right.
But where should men fall in on this conversation? Because, and again, part of the reason why I ask it this way is because it almost feels like even when men, and we find this in other conversations and other topics too, where men want to be allies and they're actually like, I'm on your side with this, that it's really not my job to tell you how to control and how to manage your body. It's almost like you get shouted down, like, whatever, you have a penis, so therefore shut up. But where should men come in on the conversation when it comes to the rights of a woman to control her body, Roe versus Wade, all that kind of stuff? Paul, you first.
Well, I'll say this. I don't believe we should have anything to do with anything to decide what women do with their bodies. I believe that the whole committee should have been women, and they should have huddled up and decided whatever the hell they were going to decide about how they were going to handle this part of whatever. With that said, I believe Roe versus Wade was incomplete. I believe had it included male prenatal rights, we would still have it as law. We wouldn't have things like Ray Caruth. We wouldn't have the child support hustle, which is what inspired the Ray Caruth. So as a man...
No. Wait a minute. Yeah, we got a history on this. I got to sit up in my chair now. You're going to need to go back because you start throwing out names like Ray Caruth, and there's people that have no idea the context of what you're talking about. And I really want to I don't want to necessarily take over the whole conversation, but I feel like what you just said, it actually deserves... Like, please get up on your soapbox.
It's an important space. That's a real space right there.
Yes, go there. And like I said, we have a history on this. This goes back.
Oh yeah,
to the planning of all this whole conversation. Our podcast, honestly, is predicated on this very conversation. So go ahead, share that.
So, Ray Caruth was a brilliant athlete, football player. Played at the University of Colorado, was drafted to the Carolina Panthers, right. And was, like I said, brilliant athlete, returner, receiver. And he, like young boys do, shot the club up with a nice young lady. And maybe I should use a different lingo. He had unprotected sex with a woman that resulted in a child that he didn't want. And she was refusing to abort because he made a lot of money. He, in his immature, sick mind, decided to hire someone to kill her and the baby to avoid paying child support because he had no prenatal rights. Had he been able to say, I don't want to raise that baby. Had there been a contract available, had there been some rights through Roe v. Wade where he could have acknowledged, you know what, I'm not going to be on the hook for that baby. I'm not going to be around for that baby. If she wants to be a mother to that baby, that's fine. She can have it. I'm out. The same way a man could want a baby And under Roe v. Wade, a woman could say, I don't want this baby. And that man has to sit there and deal with her decision. The same way a man, if he's unmarried to a woman and has a baby, could still want that baby. And she could say, I don't want this baby and give it up for adoption. A man has no rights once conception has occurred. So I believe if there was some sort of contract, some sort of procedure, protocol where a man could abscond from parenting the same way a woman can abscond from parenting, and she still can. She can still give up the baby for adoption.
She literally has all the cards.
She still has the card. She just doesn't have that card. Right?
And it actually changes the calculus when you introduce the man's ability to basically say, listen, I don't want to participate.
Right. I've been a long proponent for male prenatal rights. And for the life of me, every woman that I've had this conversation with says, hey, if you don't want a baby, wrap it up. Okay, well, now the SCOTUS has told you, if you don't want a baby, wrap it up.
Right.
Now you out here like a man. Now we equal.
Wow.
Which in a weird way was what you fought for.
Yeah.
Which is what you fought for.
You know what?
Now we equal.
To say the same thing. Like, hey, you like my daddy used to always tell me. Oh, you want to be treated like her?
Be careful what you wish for.
You want to be treated like them? Well, I'm gonna treat you like them.
Mm-hmm. You want to be grown? You don't want everybody. You want to be grown until you grown.
There you go. So you got to do what grown folks do.
As a man, as a man of 3 boys, I wish Roe v. Wade would be whatever, back in whatever. I'm pro-choice all the way. I'm for women to have control of their bodies. But I also find the irony in the situation from a lot of women who told me, if you don't want a baby, keep it in your pants.
What say you, Andre? Go on, jump in on this before I double back to this conversation about Ray Caruth, because I got some thoughts on that.
Well, I do want to make one modification to the Ray Caruth standpoint that Paul said, which is I'm not going to say that she only wanted his money. Like, once a woman gets pregnant, right, there's an attachment that I've seen that may have also been a considering factor on why she didn't want to raise a baby.
Yes, as the baby's developed.
I'm just doing that for fairness. Like, now, that's that. But now that we get back to my standpoint, I'm like, I think it's simple enough to say we all agree that men ain't got no business telling women what to do with their body. Like, I think we're all there. But I guess where I'm at with it is the election was a game till it wasn't a game. All the women,
I'll get around to it.
Right. All the women who didn't vote because of her emails. This is kind of where you ended up here. So there's a part of me that's sitting here saying, man, I feel for you, because there are legitimate causes of why, abortions happen and things like that, outside of just, I don't want the baby. Because the one thing that annoys me about the system itself is that you can make numbers do whatever you need numbers to do in order to tell the story to justify what you want to. If a woman has a miscarriage and the miscarriage doesn't go all the way through, they have to abort the pregnancy, and that counts as an abortion. Even though it's a medically necessary, because you can't have a living organism or a dead organism inside your body, because your body starts to attack it, and then it causes infection. Yes. Yeah. So there's different medical reasons on why abortions happen outside of I don't want the baby, but they're all lumped together as far as abortions and things like that.
Similar to how they categorized COVID, where it was like it became convoluted instead of it being clean.
Right.
Every death that they called a COVID death wasn't necessarily what we might consider a COVID death. Right.
But the Republicans have taken this and spun the numbers to make it match whatever it was. So, like, all these babies are being killed, and there's a significant
nuance.
Yeah, there's nuance and there's the gray matters. So there's a significant amount that weren't going to make it, or the mom's life was in danger, or the baby's life was in danger. All these different things that come into play that we have no business being able to say, hey, well, sorry about your luck. It's God's will. Let's let, the Lord take over, what have you. It's a really unfair situation. I'm, a dad of 3 daughters. So I definitely want them to be able to make the choices that they want to make. But also, this is another element that they don't talk about, which should be discussed, is that I'm a husband of a black woman, and black women in medical rooms don't receive the same treatment, don't receive the same care, and don't often have the same outcomes as other races when they go into a hospital room. And
my wife almost died in childbirth.
Man, so all of these things come into play when we're sitting here discussing women's rights, and it's beyond reproductive rights. Like, it's beyond abortions. There's a whole litany of things that are about to happen that they've opened the door to make decisions on behalf of women that I know people are celebrating, or not people, but there's a portion of people, Bible thumpers and things like that are celebrating at this moment. But as time goes on, it's not going to play out in their favor. And it's a sad state of affairs on where we're at with that, because when you need different care and don't have access to it, it's also, another element of another way to kind of cast poor people and people who don't have access to things. Because now at this point, based on states and where you may live, you may have to go to a different state to have an abortion. Can you afford to get to a different state? Can you afford, is your insurance going to cover different medical procedures? Do you even have insurance to do that? Because once, let's just say you're on Obamacare or something like that, now that they've done federal mandates, they may rewrite the laws within that to say, hey, this is a part that you can't have because this is a federal program. So you're going to have to come out of pocket. Who got $20,000 to $30,000 for, a procedure, things like that. So and then as we touched on last week, when you get down to a bunch of unwanted kids in this world, because now I have to have the baby, but we ain't got no formula, we ain't got daycare is through the roof, so we ain't got no education, and we ain't got no teachers to teach them. But good luck with that. So that's just the tip of the iceberg, and I don't like the position that we're in right at this moment.
Yeah, it's coming, and I'm gonna take that as an opportunity for me to jump in the pool now, because and I'm gonna try to be concise. Number one, you said elections matter, and your vote, and how people look at politics matter, because everybody wants to rail against the GOP. First of all, what I find fascinating is that we get so emotional and caught up. Paul mentioned this, I think it was yesterday or the day before, where he was basically talking about, like, he was making a contrast in his joke. It was kind of tongue in cheek between Biden and Trump. Now, basically, they're the same cats, but at least one of them is it's a better time, because
it's a better hang. Yeah, I would rather hang with Trump than Biden, but they the same dude. If I gotta go out,
Biden doing tea and warm milk or whatever, and crackers at night, and going to bed by 9, and Trump is out here doing
outside
at
Mickey D's in the drive-thru at 11:30.
Now here's the thing, and the reason why I bring that up is not because I understand where he's coming from. I tell people all the time, I would much rather spend my time hanging with George W. Bush than I would Barack Obama. But the thing about it is, that has nothing to do with my politics.
Right.
And what I agree with. And
I don't want people I would hang with running stuff.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm a solid dude, but the people I would actually hang with, I don't want y'all in charge.
Listen, no, forget in charge. I tell people all the time, some of my best friends, they have never spent time with my children for more than 5 minutes.
And there's a reason.
Without me being in the room. It ain't because they gonna hurt them on purpose.
Right.
But I'm an adult. I'm a
whole grown up,
built up, and I know how to protect myself. I can't have my babies around you. You ignorant. The point is that, and I bring this up because, and I'll say this, and I'm gonna say it with my chest, even though I know it's probably gonna get some backlash. We don't all. Sometimes I think we look at the body politics and we treat it like, well, we want to be just like them. Stop being just like them. Stop voting against your own interests. If you truly care about something, then stop worrying about the fact that, well, I just didn't like the way that she said this, or I don't like her voice, or I don't like her facial expressions, or she seemed kind of boring, or he seems like he. Dude, if you have an agenda, if you have things you care about, then that's what you need to understand. Like, it's like my dad used to always tell me, he said, I don't need my chief of police to be a choir boy. I don't need my mayor or my governor or my city manager to be the person with the most integrity. Can he get the job done? Because at the end of the day, I need the job done. Now, that's number one. Number two, getting back more squarely on this, as someone who is a minister, and that is my vocation. Like, that's not just a job for me, but that is my passion. That's what I do. Whether I'm, coaching a sport for kids, or whether I'm out here with my business at my store, whatever it is. One of the things that bothered me about this whole conversation is there was a meme that someone put out there, and I just reposted it because I felt like it was appropriate. It said, "This is our country, not your church." And I got the brakes beat off of me all over the weekend. And I was thinking, why? Like, find the lie. Part of the thing that troubles me the most is that people, and I'll say it, especially black people, have allowed the allowed the curtains to be pulled over their eyes, where it's like they have somehow allowed religion and their faith to somehow get mixed into politics. And that doesn't mean that I'm not going to vote or be an activist or care about certain issues based on what my belief system is. I mean, you can't possibly divorce those things internally unless you're just, I don't know, schizophrenic or something. I don't know how you would do it. But my point is, it is not my job to dictate to somebody, especially in a country that claims to be separation of church and state. It's not my job to enforce on Paul or Andre what my belief system is. And I even came back with that, and I said, guess what? If your God is clapping right now and celebrating because of what the Supreme Court just did, or if your God is angry or sad or whatever, then your God is too small. Because what I can tell you is, if you truly believe in a God that cares that much about what the Supreme Court just did, then your God is weak. My God controls the entire universe. There are black holes opening up, and the universe is constantly expanding. Dude, just like, it's like people talk about, well, yeah, but you're setting us back to a time back in the 1920s. What they did back in the 1920s? They found a way. And they had to do it through faith. And they had to do it trusting in God. They had to do it praying. You find a way. But this idea that God is somehow on your side of the issue, I have a problem with that, and especially coming from the pulpits in America, coming from people who are claiming to be bringing God's word, and I'm talking specifically Christians. I mean, because other people have different faiths, and I respect that, but I'm speaking from my perspective now. Stop trying to hijack the conversation and make abortion and Roe versus Wade about. Because here's the deal, when you think about it, and Andre touched on this, I never knew what an atopical pregnancy was until I knew what it was, until somebody explained it to me. When somebody has a tubal pregnancy, I didn't know what that was. I didn't understand that even though something is not technically an abortion, you need a doctor who is capable of abortion-style procedures. And it may not be as simple as, well, guess what? You're in Idaho, catch a flight to Washington and get it done. Because it might be an emergency procedure and they don't have time. Forget the money. Being rich don't save you when you're in a car accident, you bleeding out. You got to get to the nearest location. And if a woman is sitting there bleeding out and she needs what we would quote unquote call an abortion, I don't have time to get from Jackson, Mississippi to Oregon. I don't have time to get to the nearest state where it's available. And so it's irresponsible, just from a medical perspective, to not revisit. Frankly, you brought this up at our last piece, where it's like, it's just lazy to not be more nuanced with the conversation. And that's why it bothers me and it kind of grinds my gears that people are taking this faith and religious perspective to this procedure as though it's just always about a woman not wanting a child. Right. How about she just don't want to die?
Rev, let me ask you this.
How about she just wants to live? Because she got other babies at home, and she got a responsibility to them, and she got a responsibility to her husband, and she's taking care of her mama, and this is actually going to jeopardize her life, or it's going to jeopardize her career. Okay? Because it's easy.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
With Christianity in America and the racial nuance with Christianity in America, do you think that has to do with R.V. Wade?
100%.
Because of the infertility rates and
Absolutely.
and of a certain demographic and the Christianity that goes along with it. What do you think about that?
And we know this because when the conversation around abortion rights, if you go back and you do the research and you look back into the 1950s and in the 1960s, what you will find is most Baptists, and we're talking about like going back because you can document what was going on. I don't want to get too far from the conversation. They had more, that is a particular tradition that had more records. They were more politically active and things like that. So you can go back and see what they wrote and what they taught and what they believed. They were all, for the most part, pro-choice. And their reason was, it is not your job to dictate to me as a government what I should be able to do with my body. Similar to that's why I brought up COVID, similar to the COVID conversation, where with COVID, it's not your job to tell me I have to be mandated to take this vaccine. I don't want to put it in my body. I don't want to take a vaccine. I don't want to do that. And so that was the position. The problem is you can't cherry pick and decide that you're not going to dictate something to me when it comes to COVID. And full disclosure, I'll just share this now because it's like we're kind of past it at this point. I went ahead and I got vaccinated. I didn't have any problem with it. I did the research and I was cool with it. I wasn't one of the first ones, but I understood it and it worked out. And even though I was one and I encourage people to do it, here's the thing. I wrote more COVID exemption letters for people than most people would even realize, because I felt like if you're sincerely in your faith, you don't want to take something in your body. And I gave them the scriptures that will support that. You don't tell another man that he has to be vaccinated. You don't tell another man that he has to risk putting something foreign in his body that he's not aware of. And in the same way, you can't use that argument to say, you're not going to vaccinate me and you're not going to give me this, thing to inject. But then you're going to tell another woman what she can or cannot do. It's, our girl Catherine, she pointed this out. She was like, which again is news to me because I'm not a woman. I've never taken a birth control pill. But she was like, you can use birth control pills. She said, all that's going to happen is the amount of miscarriages or I didn't know I was pregnant. Oops, I lost a baby. It's just going to increase.
Yes.
Okay. What they call it, infanticide or whatever it's called. I hope I'm not butchering the word, but that's the point. It's going to happen. My only thing is this: we have to be consistent. We have to be consistent about the conversation. We can't pick and choose when it's right to somehow inject Jesus into the conversation, but then want to take him out when it's something we don't want to do.
Well, I'm talking about the premise of Trump and everything. I'm talking about the racial component behind this, where white women just aren't churning out white babies at the rate that the rest of us are.
But that's what the research would support. If you go back into the 50s and the 60s, when they started to discover, this is actually, they said when they did the census, it came out, what was it, 2 years ago, I guess it was, or a year ago, for the teens, the 2010 through 2019. Right. They said this is actually the first time in this country's history where white people actually had less children than the people who actually died. Their numbers actually started going in reverse.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Right. And so my point is, unfortunately, and this is another again, don't get me started. This is another conversation.
We already started. We here now.
Okay, well, we here now then. But when you start talking about evangelicals, unfortunately, people don't want to accept the fact that the reason why evangelicals are so tightly intertwined and bound to the Republican Party and the GOP is strictly, it's not about policy, it is strictly about race. It's the reason why so much
religion.
It's race and religion.
Yeah.
Period. They're tied together. It's the reason why somebody like me, people just assume that I'm some liberal. They just assume that I'm somebody out here who believes in all.
Well, because we're black.
Because we're
black men, we automatically vote Democrat, right?
Absolutely. And it's like there is no nuance. There is literally, pun intended, there's no gray matter. When the fact of the matter is, no, there's plenty of gray matter in there. And all I'm saying is that we have to be smart enough, as somebody tried to kind of take a diss at me, like, well, you're taking the bait. No, you're taking the bait. You're taking the bait because you think that I'm somehow advocating that women should just go out here willy-nilly and give up their pregnancies. And what I'm saying is there's more to it than that.
Absolutely.
And if you really want to hear more about this, feel free to log in and watch me Sunday because I'm going to talk about it. I got time in the pulpit this Sunday. So we're going to get to it because Jesus has something else to say about it.
Well, then you add in and that's what I'm saying, the racial component is ironic because abortion was, if I'm not mistaken, is about population control of a certain demographic.
Right. Well, so Billy, and I wanted to catch up real quick because Billy said something about, separation of church and state. And that's what it's supposed to be. But this has never been about separation of church and state to make decisions. This is about money. Like just like everything else in this country, we don't need to separate church from politics. We need to separate money from politics because one, we talked about our friends not being the ones who run the country. Billy tearing the club up. But
there you go.
we talking about our friends not being one to run the country. But the problem is right now, like just to rewind real quick, the problem in this entire scenario was never Trump or Joe Biden. The problem was our choices were Trump and Joe Biden, and those were our only choices.
Correct.
Because
they weren't. No, we made those our only choices.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
We made it binary.
At the end of the day, those were our only viable choices. But the problem is we don't have the best people. We have the biggest fundraisers. And that's why I'm saying that we need to, the one thing nobody's ever going to do, but I'm in favor of is put a salary cap on campaigns. And let's see who the best win is at that point. Everybody get.
You got 100 racks.
Right.
You got 100,000. Make it work.
Make it work.
And then now we
if
see
you really about that life, you will.
Right, but right now we giving whoever can raise the most money is pretty much in the running for whoever's president, what it's going to be, and
best commercials, best speechwriter wins,
and all of that. And we're not getting the best because financials eliminate most of the best candidates, and so that's just my part on that. But when we come back to looking at how the church does it, and we talk about, I guess this is going to be a day of irony. What the hell? But we have the Catholic Church who is, shouting they love Jesus and we can't have abortions. You got to have these babies. Now they skipped over the part of the Catholic preachers and what was going on there. But God is not pleased with this part. God is not pleased with this abortion.
And that's my point, especially, and I'll even rewind it just before, because
God will forgive you blowing little boys' backs out, but that that abortion now.
But that abortion thing is intolerable. Like, we need you to have those babies so we can ruin their lives.
Right.
Okay? So we can.
We need more busters. We need more people we can pick on.
There you go. People we can bully. And I'll just back it up here because you mentioned this about money and politics and putting a cap on it. While I do believe that is part of it, I believe there's more to it because if we're actually going to have some integrity about it, the reason why you get decisions like what we get, the people that are being put on the Supreme Court, think about Clarence Thomas. Clarence Thomas literally was put on the Supreme Court by Herbert Walker Bush, George Herbert Walker Bush, the first one. And he was taking Thurgood Marshall's seat. He literally found a black man that would, the most self-hating black man he could find that was a conservative that could get on the court. He wasn't black eminently qualified.
Faces, not black voices.
Exactly. And so I'll take it a step further, though, because Paul mentioned this about the faces and how we're selecting. We talked about this last week, how we select our leaders. But even when we think about this past election cycle, everybody's reason for putting Joe Biden up there, and I don't even disagree with the reason, was we can't go through another 4 years of Trump, so find the one person who is electable. And here's the problem with that. Not that he was the one person who could get through. He clearly proved that he could get through. He squeaked it out. But nobody even considered an Andrew Yang.
Right.
Not seriously. Right. Nobody considered a Pete Buttigieg.
What's his name? Buttigieg?
Yeah. Buttigieg, yeah. Nobody considered him seriously. And here's my point. They actually are the type of leaders who could have fixed a lot of the problems that we're in right now because
if they would have been allowed to govern. They didn't let Obama govern.
That's exactly
the point.
Right.
They wouldn't let because those two men are gay. Because those two men are openly gay, I doubt that Congress and the Senate would have allowed them to govern because they would have tried to just keep getting elected for the next guy. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Right, because the entire thing isn't about acting on behalf of the people. It's about acting on behalf of whatever keeps your job. So they tell you, they make these campaign promises. They say whatever it is to get them elected. And then after that, to hell with it. I just, I'm going to keep doing status quo. I'm going to follow the money. I'm going to keep doing whatever it is in my best interest to keep the people happy. They keep giving money to my campaign to get me back right where I am again.
And just because we've gone way past, but just to button this up, like it or not, the reason why Hillary Clinton did not win back in 2016 is because white women didn't vote for her.
White women.
That's where I'm
at with this march that y'all having now is because you didn't march back then.
Because that's exactly right. Because you couldn't get past the fact that you didn't like something about Hillary Clinton, or you just didn't respect her decision to stay with Bill, or you felt like she was an opportunity, whatever you may have thought. The fact of the matter is, and Paul said it perfectly, this is about governance. And the idea that you're a person, like, there's a lot of stuff I don't agree with, but, maybe, and I'm saying that from a faith perspective, but it's not about me. I got to live with the other 330 million people in this country. Mm-hmm. A lot of them are women. A lot of them are poor. And I have to be concerned about, because part of my faith and a part of our ministry, because I'm trying to do it the right way, means I then have to support them. I have to help them. I have to minister to them. I have to be willing to sacrifice for them, which means that, no, I don't want them making a bad choice because it was better than a worse choice.
Right.
But unfortunately, we'll have to leave it there for now. And then jump, as they say, from the frying pan directly into the fryer. Well, frying pan into the fire. Is that how it goes? Frying pan. Whatever it is. We're going to go from hot to hotter, and now you can't get much hotter than this one here. R. Kelly just got 30 years. I'm going to just let that marinate for a minute, because 30 years is a long time.
That's a long time.
Man. A lot can change in 30 years.
That's it.
Yeah.
That boy 50, right?
He 55, so he'll be 85.
If he lives out his entire sentence, he will be 80 on the day he's released. Now, obviously, Fed time and all this other
and I'm going to be there on the tour if I'm alive.
And I'll say this.
Sorry.
I'm going to say this.
Sorry, America. Sorry, the world. I'm sorry. Listen, it is what it is.
We're going to get there, Paul. We're going to get there. Whoa, wait a minute. Hold on.
Let Bill come out on tour.
Start.
I'm in the building.
False start. What'd you say, Andre? You remember how we used to do it? You come out the blocks just to get the jitters out, right?
Man, right.
Because you know how it was back in high school. Where it was like you get one false start before they actually disqualify you. So Paul was just getting the jitters out of everybody, so we could kind of, you know.
It is what it is. I'm not saying nothing wrong.
Right. Oh, he gonna sing the song. Listen, let's try this again. So R. Kelly got 30 years. This just came out. What was it, yesterday?
And he should have got that shit. I'm sorry. He should have got that stuff too.
I want to ask this question because so much of this is why the Gray Matters is the Gray Matters, because I need to understand how it is that we still, why it is we have such a visceral reaction towards R. Kelly, but we still recognize President's Day. Why it is that we still sing the Star Spangled Banner. Like, they will, for better or worse, whatever you think about it, Colin Kaepernick was like, nah, I'm just going to sit here. I'm not standing up for this. Mm-hmm. And he had his reasons, whatever you think of his reasons. And he was vilified by no less than half
immediately.
This like, immediately. Oh my gosh, it's so disrespectful. But the fact of the matter is, if you consider the charges that R. Kelly was charged and convicted of, and then you go back and you look at the writers of the National Anthem, all the different America the Beautiful, even a lot of, I'll take it here, even a lot of the gospel hymns.
Brigham Young.
We sing every Sunday. The men who wrote them were, dare I say, far more flagrant than R. Kelly was. And yet we're able to separate.
Dude was foul. Dude was pretty foul.
Yeah. I'm just saying. It's nasty.
Dude was hella foul.
But my point is, we're able to separate the music from the person, from their character. We're able to separate their contributions from the individual, right? We don't have to appreciate their lifestyle. And so the question I want to just, I guess, throw out here now is, why is it that we're unable to appreciate? Because I don't care who you are. I'm not even asking this question. I'm telling you, if he is nothing else, R. Kelly is a brilliant writer of music. Like, unquestionably one of the greatest in my lifetime. Why can't we separate the music from the person's obvious flaws and shortcomings? And you both are musicians. You can appreciate this. So whoever wants to take it first, where are we at with this?
I can only chuckle because I'm still, this whole day is just so ironic. Like it just is filled with irony. Like we talked about the Bible and all of this, and like we're gonna just skip over what King James did. Yeah, that's another story for another day. Okay,
Lord.
But
Lord, bars,
right?
Bars,
yes.
Yeah, that's the snippet for the week, right there. That's the snippet for the week.
The Bible, if it's not from the King James version, but proceed on.
Right, talk that talk,
man. So the National Anthem. So we're gonna get to the whole entire, R. Kelly of it and all, and being able to separate the art from the artist, but I need to start at the beginning, which is I had an argument. I don't even know if it was a one-sided conversation because I pretty much dominated that one about the National Anthem. And like the one thing that I'm getting, like I got sick of it during the Colin Kaepernick, protest phase, and I'm still sick of it, is once they made the protest about the actual National Anthem itself and the song. And to me, this is an unofficial poll, but I am pretty comfortable in saying that the National Anthem does not mean the same to black people as it does to white people.
Preach.
I have listened to this song millions of times at this point, somewhere in that range, because of all the sports and all of that. I have never felt anything when that song played. Not one time.
I just wanted to be over so we could play ball.
That's it. But white men are telling us we're supposed to have a feeling when this song comes across.
Nah.
But at the beginning of time, you made us write our own national anthem because you didn't want us participating in yours. And so for us to be in a country that never wanted us and spent a majority of my grandparents' lifetime, my parents' lifetime, and most of my lifetime telling me that you don't want me here, why am I supposed to feel something about a song that represents you? But this is where my I guess it's not really anger or frustration, because I'm beyond that at this point, because it's just stupid at this point. Yeah, right. I'm numb to the whole fact that we're supposed to participate in something that's a reminder that we never wanted you here in the first place. Now, the writers of the national anthem, completely flawed. The premise of the national anthem, completely flawed. Now, let's go back. I know, we talk about being from, Forest Park. I'm originally from Louisville, Kentucky. You can tell I'm from Louisville because I say Louisville. And
not Louisville. Says Louisville.
Louisville, where my old Kentucky home is played before every game. That song is not of us either. So for that, we celebrate a lot of songs in this country that we're told black people need to get over. But
what about Acho playing the piano on the Earl Campbell joint with the Texas song? Do you remember that? He was singing his little Nigerian heart out. He had no clue, did he?
Because he had no context.
He has no context.
No attachment to it.
Or that the University of Texas made, hey, this is the mandate that y'all gonna sing this song because I don't care how racist it is, y'all got to sing this song if y'all gonna play for this football program. And then you wonder why y'all didn't have anybody drafted in the last couple of years, but that's neither here nor there. There may be a correlation. I'm just saying, but it's just. But there's just this weird dynamic of people telling us how we're supposed to feel about something and how we're supposed to go about it, when every day y'all make us try to separate the art from the artist. But then when we come to this scenario with R. Kelly and Bill Cosby, and we don't really, the problem is, I went to see the Elvis movie. And I got flack for it. I wrote the movie.
Right.
I
saw that.
I had to jump in and save you, dog.
All I did was go and just, me and him share the same birthday. I wanted to see what the story was about. I like Tom Hanks.
You live in Tennessee, for God's sakes.
And
right. Second way around.
Right. So it was a good flick. I liked it.
Right.
But either here we're walking down this rabbit hole of things that, if you really knew whether it's the old hymns or the new gospel songs and the people who wrote them, if you knew about their lifestyle, you may not sing that song with the same vigor that you thought you was singing it with in church, because there's a lot of questionable people who are writing the biggest hits. And this is not an opinion. I know this. Like Billy said, me and Paul are both artists from the music industry. I know the people who wrote some of these songs, and I know the lifestyle that some of these people have.
Super foul.
But we want to single out R. Kelly. The radio would be real silent if we really peeled back the curtain.
You would be stuck.
Wouldn't be no bass.
Yeah, you would be stuck with me. I would be the hottest
Jerry Lee Lewis. Look up, just Google Jerry Lee Lewis. Wouldn't be no bass.
Forget not only that, but here's the thing, and I'm, because I'm an equal opportunity one here. There's people that swear by the Marvin Gayes and Sam Cookes and Lou Rawls and Quincy Jones of the world, and I'm just name dropping like I said, the low hanging fruit. But before I pass it over to you, Paul, what I find fascinating, and Andre kind of brought it up. What I find fascinating is how, when we think about separating the art from the artist, and you mentioned this about Acho. Acho was singing that song. And he has no connection to any of that pain.
None.
What I find fascinating is that the same people who are out here flogging R. Kelly are the same people that don't seem to realize how flagrantly they are disregarding maybe things that are painful to me. Artists out there who are disrespectful, and they live lifestyles that are, I consider them to be just absolutely wrong
or deviant.
But they're deviant. There you go. That's a better word.
Alternative.
But my point is, their deviant behavior while it is personal for me, they don't have a connection to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like I'm upset because let's be honest, there's so many women out there that just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that he went out here and he took advantage of all these girls. And what fascinates me about that in particular is that I've heard very little. I've heard a little, but very little conversation about the parents that were completely complicit and putting their daughters out there. It wasn't just a matter of R. Kelly was not just sending his boys, his team out there to the park or to the mall with candy and just grabbing some 14 and 15-year-old girls.
I mean, he kind of was.
Well, okay, he was. But my point is,
he did a lot. He did a lot.
He was doing it. He was doing the most.
Okay,
he was creative.
Full disclosure, I'm not defending R. Kelly. What I'm saying is that when you actually go back, let's just face it, if you went back and you paid attention to any of the documentary, what you'll find is that these weren't just in other words, he wasn't just kidnapping people off the street.
Right.
There was a lot of things that that happened in between to get these girls to the studio, get them to his compound. And there's a lot of parents that got to answer some questions about why in the world would you send your 14 or 15-year-old daughter to see this grown man anyway when everybody know?
They did.
We talk about Cosby all the time.
We talked about youth sports last week, right?
That's my point. It was an opportunity. You thought it was an opportunity. Just like when we talk about Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby he gave you the blueprint. He told you that he was using Quaaludes. He told you he was calming you down. He told you he was getting you relaxed. I'm not justifying the deviancy of their behavior. What I'm saying is, are we going to talk about all aspects of it, or are we just going to throw them away? Because just like we want to give nuance, well, that was just a different time back when the founding fathers were living their lives, and the Francis Scott Keys of the world and these different people. When that was just a different time, and slavery was different, and the way we lived in this country were different. Well, guess what? That was a different time too. Are we going to look at all sides of it, or are we just going to throw R. Kelly, his art, away without there being an ability? Because I personally, I get tired of people looking at me sideways because R. Kelly came on the radio and I didn't turn it off. Because guess what, man? I've been singing I Believe I Can Fly since it came out. Like, help me out, Paul. What's your take?
We forgive who we like. Right? So Donald Trump had hookers and abortions and children out of wedlock and all kind of things, right? But he's just the greatest American. He's just a man who made some mistakes. But Michael Vick fought some pit bulls. And we'll never let that go.
You stupid, Mike.
Yeah, what's wrong with you, Mike? And you know what? I didn't even know, I'm full disclosure, I didn't even know fighting dogs was a crime until Michael Vick went to jail.
I did not either.
Because I seen it all my whole life. You got a pit, I got a pit, let's fight them.
I ain't gonna give no names.
I ain't gonna get no names either. I'm just saying it happened almost every day. Yeah, all the time.
I knew where to go.
I know some people who packed up after the Michael Vick thing happened. Like, oh,
right, like, oh shit,
we can't do that.
Right.
Shut down the operation. Let's clean it,
bruh. So we forgive who we like, right? Like nobody brings up that Gandhi was molesting 13 and 14-year-old girls. We talk about with Gandhi? Hunger strike. Nobody talks about Gandhi hating Africans.
Literally feeling like Africans were less.
Yes.
Yes.
Like as quotes. Like this wasn't hearsay. Like there's quotes with this.
He's literally a racist and a sexual deviant, and we have statues and books and movies about this guy.
Yeah.
We forgive who we like.
He is lifted up as the example, the model. Thomas
Jefferson. We forgive who we like. Take out your money. Everybody who's got a face on your any cash you have has done way worse than R. Kelly.
I have always held the position that R. Kelly, Unfortunately, it's a woman scoring. He messed with the wrong one.
I'm not justifying R. Kelly. He's a sick bastard, but he's also a brilliant genius. So it's always talent to tolerance. You know why T.O. got 18 years? Because T.O. was T mother effing O.
Yes.
If T.O. wasn't T.O., they'd have threw him out the league, and he wouldn't have got out of training camp.
To the league. Yeah, he wouldn't have got out of training camp. That's right.
Talent to tolerance.
They
You better be
him.
if you in the NFL they say be the man you can afford to be.
Yeah.
Right? So with Deshaun Watson right now, with Trey Songz right now. Trey Songz been sweeping rape cases under the rug like hotcakes.
Ben Roethlisberger.
Well, Ben Roethlisberger had 2. Trey Songz and Deshaun Watson have ongoing issues in this climate.
But I'm just saying, like, Ben Roethlisberger was in his situation, and then we just celebrated his last football game last year with tears and people holding up signs and crying and all kinds of stuff. Like,
and guess what? Guess what? In about 2 years, he gonna come back out at halftime, and they gonna put that 7 up in Hines. Yep. And he gonna wave, and we all gonna give him a standing ovation.
Nothing but terrible towels.
Nothing but terrible towels, just waving. It's 80,000 of them.
Say the pride of little town somewhere in Ohio went to Miami.
Findlay.
Findlay, Ohio. Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, we forgive who we like, and at the end of the day, the person with the most charisma gets away with the most.
Let me finish. Let me maybe see if I can bring this all to a close here, and I'm gonna ask a question, kind of following what you just said, Paul. Why does R. Kelly need my forgiveness?
I don't know why he would need anyone's forgiveness. I never was vested in him emotionally. I love the song. I don't care who he was singing to or who he was singing about. I had friends. Now, let me go back to a few years back, about 10 years ago. Frank Ocean. Remember that Channel Orange album?
I remember it.
Beautiful album.
Yeah.
Right? And the man came out as gay, and I had people literally tell me they couldn't listen to his album anymore.
Yep.
And I'm like, this is a beautiful album. It's a masterpiece. Why? Oh, he's gay. He's singing to a dude. Well, I don't care who he's singing to. Then don't listen to Luther. Don't listen to Teddy Pendergrass.
Right.
Don't listen to Marvin Gaye.
Don't listen to Freddie Jackson. Don't listen to
Don't listen to
George Michael. Sorry.
That
wham get fired up in the headphones.
Bruh.
Once in a while.
Can't laugh at Richard Pryor like any of these things.
Right. Wait. If you
we
go
so quickly throw people away.
Just because we don't agree with what they do when we're not watching.
And here's the point. I'll just leave it here. Y'all don't know what I'm doing in my private life. I can tell you anything. I can say anything. Mm-hmm. People have managers and handlers for all that. I like to think of myself as a clean, virtuous, person who has integrity and all that kind of stuff. But the fact of the matter is, I feel like in the public arena, we put entirely too much weight on people's private lives. And again, that does not justify criminal behavior. Let's be clear about that.
No,
the man is a criminal, and he deserves time. Okay.
Yeah.
You can't do what R. Kelly did and not deserve time. But that also doesn't mean it's almost like if a politician does something corrupt or they're out here doing something evil. Does that mean we retroactively go back and reverse the laws that they signed in? No.
We ain't canceling Elvis or Michael Jackson.
Absolutely not.
So I'm not turning off R. Kelly.
Politician did something dirty.
Man,
come on,
Cosby Show come on every day, bruh.
Every day.
Every day. And if I'm not watching something else, guess what? I'm gonna watch me a little Rudy Huxtable, little Theo Huxtable. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is, man.
All right, everybody. Well, we're about to wrap it up here, but before we do that, as always, we have to do our APBs, the call out. Where you at? What the problem is? You got to show up. And so we're all going to leave with our final take. Andre is A. That's how the word that's how it's spelled. So it starts with you. Who you got this week?
So who I'm looking for is a collective. So allow me to rant for a second. I've been real angry this entire episode, so y'all just roll with it. My APB on this one is on Black professionalism. So last week my APB was for support of Black businesses, right? But now that we got the support, I need Black businesses and Black professionalism to do their part to warrant the support. So quick story, went to a soul food restaurant here in Nashville, and food is banging, like love it. But, and there's always a but, waitress came and brought me the food, and she turned around to walk away, and I noticed she had a flower print of somebody's hand on her butt cheek. Now, she's dressed in all black, and you got this white handprint, and it was definitely cuppage because it was the whole handprint. Like, it was forensic. Cuppage. It was forensic files. Like, if dude ever committed a murder, it's right there. Like, all of that was there. And so I had to be the one. Like, it took me like 20 minutes to bring it up to her. Like, hey, by the way, I'm not being creepy. I'm not doing like I had to word it because I'm married, happily married, and I didn't want her to think I was checking her out. But like I said, she had all black with a white handprint on her ass cheek. Like, I had to bring it to her attention, and it got me to thinking. Like, yo, one, I wanted to tell her because I didn't want people to think other people because I was there when it opened, so I didn't want other people to come in and think, oh, that's how they get down in this restaurant. But two, you don't go to other establishments and see stuff like that, and that's one instance. And I know some people go and extrapolate the fact that it was a handprint. Like, take whatever else you want out of it, whether it's servers with bad attitudes. You're supposed to open at 10, don't get till 11:30. Make hair appointments for 12, but you forgot and you gotta go pick up your kids and you leaving your appointments, unnecessarily on time. Things like whatever you want it to be. Black doctors, go to the doctor's office and your appointment's supposed to be at 10, but you ain't seen until 1:30. Like, all of these different things. Like, can we do better? Like, and the other quick tangent that put me on this edge was the BET Awards. Now, for the better part of 10 years, 10, 11, 12 years, whatever it is, the BET Awards has been known as like a really great day for the culture, really bad day for technology. Like, we had the one year where sound just cut out. We had the one year where Kanye had a damn fireworks show in the middle of the damn thing, and we couldn't see Kanye for 10 minutes. We had so this past week we had the one, and again, no other award show goes through this. Like, not even the NAACP, or so it's not just a specific black award show, because the Soul Train Awards, the NAACP Image Awards, like none of these other, the Essence Awards, none of these.
Will Smith literally smacked the taste out of Chris Rock's mouth, and they kept the show.
They kept the show going. I'm sitting here watching
Didn't
Taraji
miss
P.
a beat.
I'm sitting here watching Taraji P. Henson say, "Hey, baby, you standing in front of the teleprompter. What in the hell?" Like, we got people walking in front of the teleprompter. We got people bragging that they didn't come to sound check. We got people who got microphones. Givian, bless his heart, who's supposed to be the next Luther Vandross and all these different people. They handed him those was Taraji's words. Gave him the wrong mic, so the mic he got didn't have auto-tune on it. Like, all of these different flaws that happen, and it only happens with the BET Awards, y'all. Like, I need us to do better, because it irks my nerves that the performances themselves were dope. But, well, the ones that were in tune were dope. But overall, like, we're still looking at a fact that we're putting together a subpar package, and the more people watch this one than anyone in history, and this is what they saw. Like, I just need us to tighten it up, because like, black professionalism is a thing. Like, there's no reason for the red carpet to have that much titties and ass just out hanging out on the red carpet as was on the BET Awards. Like, why can't elegance also follow that night? Like, it's just certain things about it that bother me, because I was uncomfortable watching the show with my 13-year-old daughter, because I'm like, yo, this is a really graphic show. And it's
White folks own BET. Man. White folks ran that, and they let white that folks happen. Put on the BET Awards, not black folks.
Right, and they was happy seeing that shucking and jiving that they was doing to give a poor representation.
That was intentional.
That was definitely intentional. But that's all that to say, yo, can we do better? Like, I just need black professionalism show up, have a level that we reach, but again, continue to support, but can we do our part? That's my APB for the day.
I got a different APB. I'm looking for a brother to come back to where he was once upon a time. I'm looking for Jason Whitlock. And I say this because I used to be a fan. I took arrows for this brother. People called me coon because I said, yo, Jason Whitlock is all right, man. He ain't all, I don't agree with everything, but he all right. We need other brothers who think differently to be speaking. We need him. He's important. I didn't call you one,
but I sure did think it.
Right.
I remember when it was happening.
Oh yeah, I used to take arrows for Jason Whitlock. You
definitely took some serious L's for.
And you know, he from the Midwest. He from. I understand Jason Whitlock. I grew up with people just like Jason Whitlock, so I understood. Like, he's not necessarily a coon. He just different. He just think different. He see the world different. Bruh, I've been checking your YouTube out, bruh. It's you got me out here bad, dog. Like, I can't go no more. I can't go. You then went from a brother who thinks differently to a brother who don't want to be a brother. And that's not the same thing, bruh. Like, I'm all about independence, individual thought, and not being a monolith, and us all working together. But you done went over here and went straight Trump, straight Bible thump. Like, I don't understand like what this is about. Like, you know, it's weird. This old, you know, run over shoe tricking, you know, condescending thing is not working with me, bruh. So I would like a more black Jason Whitlock to return. That's my APB.
Wow, that's strong. Yeah, you were definitely you were mostly on an island. Mm-hmm. You were one of the last ones on Jason Whitlock Island. So,
and Jason Whitlock said, "Let me prove Paul wrong."
Yeah, let me make Paul. Let me make this guy look.
Eat all that.
Yeah, no. So everybody who was at my throat about Jason Whitlock, I gotta say you was right. I'm a real one with it. So if new information is presented to me, I will change my opinion. I will change my perspective and my thought. No,
he
dude,
gave you more than enough new information. Because I ain't gonna lie. You remember how we used to ride the Metro? You had a 20 going up Winton Road?
Right.
Man, I got off down in Winton Terrace. Paul kept riding.
Right.
Boy, he took that thing all the way through Finneytown. Everybody got off.
Right.
He was still going.
Right. I rode all the way past the graveyard, all the way past the T, you know what I'm saying? Up to White Castles, you know what I'm saying?
They turning on Kemper Road, headed to Tri County. He's still on. I'm like,
I'm going Tri County. Might even take thing back downtown on what's that Vine, you got to go back down.
No stop, just go. Right. Oh, yeah, man, you rode it all the way.
I rode that bus all the way through because I like individual thought. Yeah. And even if I don't agree with it, I will respect it. It's same with Umar, right? Like,
I can respect the fact that you actually have a cogent thought. Yeah.
Yeah. Umar, I don't agree with a lot of things Umar say, but you know what I did do? I bought that brother's book, and guess what? He didn't send it to me, just like he ain't built that school. That's another APB. Where that school at, bruh?
Oh, man. God.
Where the school at, bruh?
All right,
I don't even care about that little funky $70 that I sent you. Where the school at for the brothers?
Wait a minute, time out. Hold on.
I lost $70 messing with Umar.
First of all, Andre, we need to put an APB out
on my damn book from Umar.
$60 of the $70 for a book that he ain't got.
Yeah.
Wow.
I sent the brother because it was a book about navigating IEPs and things like that, right? Because I have a son with an IEP. And he had like a whole bunch of, he said the advertised was a bunch of letters and things that you could send to the school and advocate for your child, whatnot.
Right.
And I was like, oh, I need that.
Right. Let me get
Sit
that.
the brother.
Nice.
Yeah, let me get that. I still ain't got that book, man.
I
Maybe
bet
he sent it to
I
the
bet that
old
check
address.
cleared though.
No, I know the check. Money gone, bro. Money gone. Little swindling ass. Man, yeah, Umar Crook. I said it. He got me. He got me. Umar got me. Yeah.
Andre, you better not cut this out.
Yeah, Umar got me. So Umar, think about this. Look at my APB, dog. I got Umar and Jason Whitlock. Think about me, man. I'm all over the place. You can't call me a coon, bruh. I listen to Umar and Jason Whitlock.
You better not cut this out. Just say it. Ooh, this gotta make it. The world need to see this one. So my APB, just to close it out here, is we gotta talk about Herschel Walker.
Oh, God.
Do we got
Gotta
to?
be done.
Do
As a
we
young man, like
Which
Herschel
one?
Walker was like one of my favorites. Okay,
Herschel?
like
Or
yes.
Herschel?
No.
Oh.
Herschel Walker. I'm talking like Dallas Cowboys. I'm talking like don't do that.
It's two Herschels.
I know. I'm talking about that.
The one that be
Sassy
singing
one.
the R&B.
The little sassy one.
Right.
I'm talking about Dallas Cowboys, Minnesota Vikings. Come on, man. Georgia, don't do this.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking
Oh, they gonna do it. I want them to do it.
about. I know.
I can't wait.
But
Can't wait.
and here's
Mark
the thing,
Scott.
it's not even really about Herschel Walker, but as we think about the body politics, this is not a partisan thing. This has nothing to do with his politics. I kind of find his platform to be ridiculous, but it's not about that. I need political operatives as a whole to do better.
Man.
I remember when there was a lot of people that, after the fact, came out and started talking about all this different stuff that Donald Trump did, and it was uncovered. And it's like, that wasn't even hard to find. Or there were people that were coming out with things about Joe Biden and saying, oh, well, Joe Biden did this one, and they ran it out of context. Do better. This man got a gang of kids that he not taking care of. And yet he's sitting up on his soapbox talking down to other black men, no less, about them not being responsible, them somehow not leveling up and measuring up, and how the country's so great and then they just need to do better and they could make it like anybody else, stop making excuses or whatever. Meanwhile, you have actual bodies out here in the streets. You got actual kids. And they sitting in the audience, they sitting in the crowd like, wait a minute. Like, hands raised. Like, do you remember me? And as much as people have made a big deal out of clowning Herschel Walker, notice they waited until after he got the nomination to do it.
Oh,
So-
why would you do it before?
Well, absolutely. That again, but be smarter. Be smarter. Okay? Don't be so lazy.
There you go.
Be willing to do the work. Just because somebody has a name, just because somebody is recognizable, don't just throw them out there and think that they're qualified. Don't just throw them out there and think that they can just be a suit or a dress in a seat that's just going to vote in your direction. Actually care about the fact that, first of all, this man can't get elected. Like, I don't care
He
how
bet not.
much
He
you don't
bet
like.
I believe he can.
Here's the thing.
If Trump got elected, why can't he?
Here's the thing, though. I'm gonna put it like this. If you remember how everybody was saying, "Oh my goodness, if Donald Trump get elected, I'm moving out of the country." Y'all ain't going nowhere. Okay. Now I'm gonna say this, though. If y'all put Herschel Walker, I don't even live in Georgia no more. I don't live in Atlanta no more. So this really doesn't even directly affect me in that way, other than in the broader sense of the Senate. But I'm gonna just tell you now, if Herschel Walker get in, I'm making some phone calls because this is ridiculous. Do better with the people that you select who are going to represent
Us.
us.
I'm telling
black
you,
people, us,
from the West Coast,
like all of us.
from the West Coast, we look at everybody on the other side of the Rocky Mountains as hella weird. Y'all hella
Absolutely.
aggressive
And
and
you
hella
should.
crazy.
Because how are you even putting these people out here?
Bruh.
Everybody wants to go in on some of these other, lunatics out here
Right.
in the political space. And it's like, do better. Pick better people. There are too many people to choose from. And I don't want to go too far on this because we already talked about that. I'm not even saying you got to go get a Pete Buttigieg. If that really bothers you that he's gay or you don't know anything about Andrew Yang or whatever. There are too many people that are qualified, who care, who will do the job and will actually make it a part of something that they take seriously. For you to be putting Herschel Walker out here. This man got people, families, whole families he done created that he's not even owning, much less taking care of. He's not just a deadbeat. He's literally like, I'm not even claiming you.
He's a less accomplished Karl Malone.
Well,
do better. Politics. If people in political operatives, people that do the research, people are out here selecting these people and vetting. You are failing
miserably
in this country.
Well,
stop putting people out there.
How about the Georgia GOP is failing the white constituents of Georgia?
No,
they think you're stupid.
But yes, the ones
they
that
think
claiming
you're
to
stupid.
serve, yeah.
Specifically, the white Republicans in Georgia, they think you're stupid.
I live one state up. I'd appreciate it if they'd act like they got some damn sense. That's all I'm saying.
Tennessee is hopeless.
The only reason,
but Georgia gonna spill over to us. I need y'all to act right. Like we the neighbors that live above the crack house. So I'm gonna need y'all to do right, so that we can all get along.
You say, Andrew, we don't want you here.
We fool. Yeah, but that's all it is, man. Is the white voters in Georgia. The Republicans believe that the white voters in Georgia are stupid.
Now, I'll say this, and I've got to be careful with my words because full disclosure, I lived in Atlanta for about 9 years. I actually consider Georgia home. I consider Atlanta home. If somebody hears me talk about I'm going to move back home eventually when I retire, whatever, it's Atlanta, probably. Most likely.
Yeah, if you hear me say it's Miami. Because I just have more of a
connection there. They don't just think that the voters there are stupid. They got receipts. They got actual receipts that would validate that conclusion. Yeah. Because, again, stop voting against your own interests. You're a state that actually takes more than you give back to the Fed. Stop voting against your own interests based on culture and race and some of these other private little ideologies that really have nothing to do with the public domain. So,
Georgia is a white state that doesn't know that it's a black state.
Well, they're gonna mess around with Herschel Walker and learn.
I'm just saying, for me, I think of Georgia as a black place, right? Because of the A. But at the end of the day, when they go to the voting booth, it's really a white place with a black face. You know what I'm saying?
But they're literally cutting off their nose to spite their face.
Right.
If that were a political thing, they are literally willing to cut off their nose to spite their face. Because the one thing you mentioned about the black, because we have all these little side things that we get caught up in. The fact of the matter is, if you actually get down to it, especially if you break it down in the kind of granular numbers, part of the resentment, that's why I say the cutting off your nose to spite your face, on average, black people actually have more money in Georgia because of Atlanta and because of the disparities there. They actually have more money than if you compare them to other states in the South. Black people are not poor like you might find the disparities in, say, Arkansas or Mississippi or something like that. And so a lot of times the resentment is, I don't like when I go inside of 285 and I get into Atlanta and I start seeing black people making it and got all this money and they buying all these houses, and so you resent that. But the fact of the matter is, your cousin who lives out in Coweta County that don't have nothing to do with Atlanta, they're white and they're poor, and they actually need that money coming in because they're on food stamps or because they actually are someone who needs some support. So again, just do better. Understand that politics is not room for you to be airing out your personal grievances. Vote for what is actually going to be best for you, because I'll be honest with you, we're doing a terrible job all around when it comes to politics, but that's another conversation for another day. And you know what? This is probably a good place for us to button it up here. So we'd just like to say thank you for joining us here on The Gray Matters. We appreciate your support. We appreciate you listening in and hearing us go back and forth about some very important things and some other not so important things. So we want to say thank you for taking the time to listen to us, go through our rants, go through our APBs, go through our takes. We invite you to share, give a comment, give some feedback. We'd love to hear what your opinions are and what you think. If you have some ideas and some things that you want us to share, feel free. No matter what you may think of, you may think, oh, that's not that important, that's ridiculous. Trust me, we are here for the ridiculous. Okay, we are here to discuss the ridiculous and those things that nobody else really wants to talk about, because that is, in fact, what The Gray Matters is. The things that isn't out there in the public domain, we want to share those things with you. So we want to say thank you once again for tuning in, listening, and God bless.
Subscribe, do all that stuff, and follow us on thegraymatterspodcast.com. Keep searching for the light.
All right. Subscribe, like Mash, like Andre said, like Billy said. All of us individually, the Gray Matters podcast, Gray Matters group, all of our, and like I said, like Billy said, holler at us individually for show topics, or even just to disagree and tell us what you didn't like. But we love y'all tuning in. Peace.
And even though they made progress, continue to go out there and advocate and support Brittany Griner. She got to come home, people.
Absolutely.
She's in trial today, right? No. Tomorrow.
Starting Friday. Starting on Friday.
Tomorrow.
So still, it's not too late to sign that petition. www.wearebg.org. Let's bring her home.
All right. Have a good one. We'll see you next week.
Happy holidays.